So Trump just signed the most aggressive tariffs in US history, and what this will do to trucking is honestly really scary. Now look, before I jump in, I just need to make one thing very, very clear. This video isn't about politics, okay? I'm not here to tell you who to vote for or what to think, because unlike these other trucking channels, that'll just pander to their audience for views, I'm only here to talk about one thing, and that is how these tariffs are going to affect truckers. That's it. I'm just going to give you the facts and the truth, and then you can make your own decision on what you think. So, with that out of the way, let's start with the basics because most people genuinely have no idea what they're talking about. What are tariffs? A tariff is just a tax that the government places on imported goods. So that is stuff that we buy from other countries. And the whole purpose or the point of a tariff is just to make the foreign products more expensive so people are more likely to buy the American-made products instead, okay? That's it. That's as complicated as a tariff needs to be. So if you didn't really understand that, if that didn't make sense to you, don't worry. Let me break it down with a very simple example. So let's say you love avocados, okay, and you buy them regularly. Before tariffs, a Hass avocado that is imported from Mexico, it costs around $1.50 at your local grocery store. But let's say a 25% tariff is put onto Mexican avocados. That means that now that when grocery stores have to bring in that Mexican avocado, they will have to pay an extra tax on it, okay? So those same avocados that you were buying before for $1.50, they will now cost you $1.90 to buy. You as the American consumer, someone living in America, you basically have two choices at this point. You can either pay the extra cost for the Mexican avocados, which is no longer a good deal. You were getting it for $1.50, now you're getting that same exact product for $1.90, or you can buy the American-made version, the American-grown avocados. But there's a massive problem with that. American-grown avocados are already much, much more expensive to begin with. So if you guys didn't know this, a California-grown avocado, the last time I checked, it costs around $2.50 or more to buy. So even with the tariff, even with a 25% tariff, the Mexican avocado is still much less expensive. So most people are still going to keep buying that Mexican-made avocado. They're not going to pay more money just because it's American-made, okay? That's not how people buy stuff. The bottom line is you went from paying $1.50 for an avocado to paying $1.90 for that same exact avocado, or you now have to decide whether it's worth it for you to pay $2.50 for the American version instead. Either way, no matter how you look at this, you're paying more money for the exact same product that you were getting before. You're the one that's getting screwed over, okay? The businesses that are importing this product into the United States, they don't really care because they're just passing on that tax to you, the consumer. So they're not losing any money from this. The government, the American government, they're collecting that tariff revenue and making themselves richer. So again, the only person getting screwed over is you, the American consumer. That's how tariffs work. That's not my theory. That's not my opinion. That is very simple logic. Tariffs are naturally inflationary. So now that you understand how tariffs actually work, we need to talk about Trump's 2025 tariff plan. What he's doing, why he's doing it, and why I think this could be the biggest disaster in the history of trucking. So let's just start off with this plan. Let's talk about what his plan actually is. So on February 10th, 2025, Trump signed an executive order that imposed new tariffs on several different countries, the big three being Mexico, Canada, and China, okay? And honestly, if you look at these tariffs, they're some of the most aggressive tariffs that we've ever implemented in the history of the United States. These tariffs that Trump is talking about, they're not just targeting a few specific industries like tariffs normally do. That's how tariffs are normally used. No, what he's planning on doing is tariffing the entire country, all their industries, okay? And let's just actually take a look at what he's planning on doing. So for Mexico and Canada, he's planning on implementing a 25% tariff on all imported goods, except for oil and gas, which I think is only getting a 10% tariff. For China, he's going to add an additional 10% tariff on all Chinese goods coming into the United States, and this is going to get added on top of all the tariffs that he implemented from his first time being president. And not only that, Trump also mentioned that he could be adding more countries to this list. So countries like India and Vietnam, and maybe even the entire European Union. So if they don't meet his trade demands, he will probably start tariffing them as well. So all that sounds good. We know what he's doing, but why is he doing this? Okay, what is his actual goal here? Well, officially, he's given 3 big reasons. So first and foremost, and probably the biggest reason he's doing this, is to bring back American jobs to this country. So Trump is claiming that these tariffs that he's implementing, they will force companies to stop relying on foreign goods and start manufacturing in the United States instead. Okay, and he believes that these import costs that these foreign companies will have to pay, these foreign costs will make the US made products more competitive, and it will increase the factory jobs within the United States. So again, that's a really good goal to have. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. The second reason he mentioned is to punish Mexico for the illegal immigration and the drug issues that we're having in the US. So Trump has directly tied Mexico's tariffs to border security. And he's actually said that he will remove these tariffs if Mexico actually does something to stop the illegal immigration and drug trafficking coming into the US. The logic, of course, being that if you hit Mexico's economy hard enough, you will give them an incentive to actually start cracking down on this problem on their side of the border. Again, there seems to be some logic there. And the third reason that he mentioned, the third big reason why he's doing this, is to fix the US trade deficit. So if you guys didn't know this, the US, it buys a lot more from China, Mexico, and Canada than those countries buy from us. So Trump sees this as an unfair trade imbalance. And by making imports way more expensive, Trump is hoping that, again, the US made products will be purchased more by Americans, and this will reduce the trade deficit that we're currently experiencing. Now, all this sounds great. All these goals that I just mentioned, they sound really good. I don't care if you're on the left or if you're on the right. I don't think you would disagree that if you care about America, these are good goals to aim for. However, where the problem comes into play is how you do it. And I don't think by using tariffs as a threat or implementing tariffs, you will not be able to achieve these goals. Here's why. So for the first point, Trump wanting to bring back American jobs, and that's why he's using these tariffs. The problem with that approach is that most companies won't just magically move their production to the United States overnight. Okay, it's still very expensive to build factories here and hire workers in America. So what these companies are going to do instead is just move production to other cheap labor countries like Vietnam, India, Indonesia, Thailand. They're just going to move to those countries instead and start making their products there. And at that point, what are you going to do? Just tariff the entire world? That's not a logical way to approach this situation. So that's problem number one. For the second issue, wanting to punish Mexico for the illegal immigration and the drug issues, by tariffing them, you're actually doing the exact opposite. By hurting the Mexico economy, you will only make illegal immigration worse, not better. Because if you think about it logically, if businesses in Mexico start to struggle under these tariffs, people will of course lose their jobs. And when that happens, you're giving more people an incentive to cross the border, not fewer. So again, by using tariffs as a solution, you're making the problem much, much worse. And then finally, when it comes to the US trade deficit, this only works if Americans actually have an affordable US made alternative, okay? So you're only gonna fix that trade deficit if we're actually buying something that is cheap in America, which we don't currently have. Americans want to buy cheap stuff. We're not all super wealthy. So if we can't get it through Mexico, Canada, or China, we will just find the next best option, which unfortunately is not going to be the expensive US made products. It's going to be the products from India, Thailand, Indonesia, those countries. So as you can see, these tariffs are only going to make the problem worse, not better. Now, here's where things get really bad, especially if you're in trucking. So this is where I'm going to wrap all this up, and actually relate it to you watching, the truckers, the owner operators. Because honestly, the truth is that these tariffs are probably going to hit trucking or truckers harder than almost everyone else. Here's why. First and foremost, just expect to have higher operating costs. So it's going to be more expensive to buy semi-trucks, because if you think about it, many semi-truck manufacturers, they source their parts from overseas. So if you're looking to buy like a new truck in 2025, you're going to have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars more to buy that same truck because of these tariffs. And if new trucks are more expensive to buy, that will also raise the prices for used trucks as well. Again, if people can't buy the new trucks anymore, they're going to start to buy the used trucks, and used truck prices are also going to go up because of that demand. Again, very simple supply and demand graph. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, okay, well, that's great. Like we already have an overcapacity in the trucking industry. We don't need more truckers, buying trucks and flooding the market. That's totally fine. But even if you're in the industry right now as an owner operator, you don't want new people coming into the industry. Even if you're just in the industry right now, you're also going to get hurt by this because you're going to expect to pay higher fuel prices. So if you guys remember, oil and gas is going to get a 10% tariff, and that is going to raise the cost for US refineries to buy that product and turn it into diesel and gas. So if you're an owner operator working in the trucking industry right now, expect fuel prices to go back up, okay? Similar to what we were experiencing in 2021 when we saw the crazy diesel fuel prices. Okay, might go back to that. And not only that, but also think about your maintenance. So many of the truck parts, tires, maintenance supplies, all that stuff is getting imported from Mexico and China. And again, with a 25% tariff, things like brakes, tires, engine components, all that will instantly become much more expensive to buy. So again, if you're an owner operator, that will mean a higher repair and maintenance cost bill. Now, so far, I've only mentioned the costs, the higher cost that you're going to experience, but that's only half the problem because what's going to happen to load rates and freight volumes is even worse. So if you think about it, cross-border freight, that will immediately take a huge hit. Mexico and Canada, they're the US's biggest trading partners. So with a 25% tariff on everything, businesses in the US will start to import less and less from these countries. That means fewer loads for truckers hauling freight across the border. And when the supply drops, when there's less freight to move, that of course means lower rates, okay? Shippers, they're gonna start ordering less and less inventory to avoid those tariff costs. So again, fewer shipments means less demand for trucks, which means a lower spot market rate. Again, this is mostly going to hurt owner operators and small carriers since most of them rely on the spot market to stay profitable. The mega carriers, they have contracts locked into place. They will be fine, just like always. But listen, it's not just owner operators and small carriers that are going to get screwed by this, okay? Even if you don't have your own business in this industry, even if you're just working as a truck driver, you're also really going to suffer from these tariffs. First and foremost, you might, and I'm not trying to be alarming, you might end up losing your job or just getting paid less. Because when there's fewer loads, there's fewer jobs available, okay? When freight volumes drop, this is simple logic, companies don't need as many drivers to run their loads. So expect to see a bunch of layoffs, especially at smaller carriers that can't afford to keep drivers on. And then after those smaller carriers start laying off people, the larger carriers will also follow suit. And if you don't think this is going to happen, just look at what happened in 2021. Yellow Corporation, one of the biggest trucking companies, completely went under. Thousands and thousands of truck drivers lost their jobs. So if something like that can happen, it can happen again just in a few years. So you might end up losing your job, and also lower freight rates. If companies are making less money, that means they're going to pay you less money as well. So if rates drop, paychecks will also shrink. Drivers will have to run more miles just to make the same amount of money. And of course, it's even worse if you're an experienced driver because you're going to be the first one to get pushed out, okay? When companies start to struggle financially, they will start prioritizing cheaper labor. So newer, lower paid drivers will start to replace the higher paid experienced ones. These trucking companies, mega carriers, they don't want to pay for experience. They don't want to pay more money to a driver that's doing the same thing as the less paid one. Okay, you might do it in a safer way, but essentially they're willing to take that risk. They don't care about safety. They just want to get the product moved. So they're willing to get rid of you because you're going to expect a higher rate to obviously work. Again, the point I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter if you're a truck driver, owner operator, or a small carrier. These tariffs are really going to screw you over the most. What we went through in 2021, that trucking recession, that is going to seem like a joke compared to what can happen if these tariffs actually get implemented. All in all, the point that I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter if you're a trucker, owner operator, or a small carrier, you need to be informed on what's actually going on, okay? I am not pretending to be one of you guys. I'm a truck dispatcher. I run a truck dispatching business. So for the most part, I will be okay. Last year, I made $1.4 million. This year, I'm expected to make even more. So I am not going to get really affected by this. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in joining that, starting your own truck dispatching business, I have a fully free course that you can go through. You don't have to pay me anything. Just go to school.com/guild22, or you can check out the link in the description. But anyways, that's not what I want to say. The point that I'm trying to make is that Truckers and trucking has been getting screwed over from all sides for years now. And these tariffs, they're just going to be another problem that truckers now have to deal with. Freight rates are going down, brokers are taking bigger and bigger cuts, and the entire industry is changing in a way that I don't think most truckers even realize yet. If you think this is bad, all this tariff talk is bad, you need to watch this video right here where I'll actually explain, what trucking is going through right now, why it's struggling, and who's to blame for all this. So make sure you go check this video out. Again, you need to be informed. So check this video out, check out my free dispatching course, and I will see you in the next one.